The fifth time Jessica brought up the value of my father's lakefront cabin, something in my gut twisted. Not in an obvious way. She was subtle about it. I'm Thomas Brennan, 63 years old, retired civil engineer, and apparently still capable of recognizing patterns when I see them. 40 years of designing bridges taught me that small cracks, if ignored, lead to catastrophic failures. And my son, Michael's fiancée, she was showing cracks. The first time was at Thanksgiving, 6 months after they started dating. We were clearing the dinner table when Jessica casually mentioned that lakefront property in northern Minnesota had appreciated 30% in the last 2 years. It's crazy, she'd said, laughing. My friend's parents sold their place on Lake Vermilion for almost $1 million. Can you imagine? I'd thought nothing of it. Real estate was a common topic. My late father had left me that cabin on Birch Lake. 5 acres, private dock, built in 1952. It was where Michael learned to fish. Where my wife Sarah and I celebrated our 30th anniversary. Where Sarah spent her final summer before the cancer took her 3 years ago. I'd never sell it. The second time was in January. Michael had brought Jessica to the cabin for a winter weekend. We were ice fishing when she asked how far back the property line extended. Does it go all the way to the tree line? She'd asked, squinting at the snow-covered woods. That must be, 4 or 5 acres? 5.2, I'd said, not thinking much of it. People were curious about property boundaries. It was normal. The third time was in March. Jessica had invited herself over to help me organize Sarah's belongings. I'd been putting it off, and Michael thought it might be easier with someone else there. During a break, Jessica had pulled up Zillow on her phone. Thomas, have you seen what similar properties are listed for? There's one 3 lakes over asking $850,000, and it doesn't even have a private dock. I'm not interested in selling, I'd said, maybe a bit too sharply. Oh, of course not. She'd laughed, touching my arm. I just thought you should know what you're sitting on. It's a gold mine. The fourth time was in May, at Michael's birthday dinner. Jessica had mentioned that her colleague specialized in investment properties and could give me a free consultation on maximizing assets. No pressure, she'd said. Just thought it might be nice to know your options. Michael had jumped in. Mom and Dad always said they'd never sell the cabin. It's family. Absolutely, Jessica had agreed quickly. I totally understand. I just want Thomas to have all the information, you know? Knowledge is power. But the fifth time was different. It was late June, just 3 weeks before the wedding. Michael and Jessica had stopped by to finalize some details about the rehearsal dinner. We were sitting on my back porch when Jessica's phone rang. She excused herself, walking into the yard to take the call. She thought she was out of earshot. She wasn't. No, it's fine, I heard her say. The wedding's in 3 weeks. After that, it's just a matter of getting the old man to agree. Michael trusts me completely. A pause. The cabin? Easy. We'll suggest selling it for the down payment on our house. He's sentimental about it, but I can work that angle. Probably clear $700,000 minimum after taxes. My blood went cold. When she came back, all smiles, I didn't say anything. I couldn't, because I needed to be sure I'd heard correctly. I needed to know if my son was being manipulated by someone who saw him as a means to my family's assets. That night, I couldn't sleep. Sarah's voice kept echoing in my mind. She'd said it 100 times when the kids were growing up. Trust your instincts, Tom. You're good at reading structures, but you're even better at reading people. The next morning, I called Marcus Webb. We'd served together in the Army Corps of Engineers back in the 70s. And after retiring from the military, he'd become a private investigator. If anyone could dig into someone's background discreetly, it was Marcus. I need you to look into someone, I told him over coffee at our usual diner. My son's fiancée, Jessica Holloway. Marcus didn't ask unnecessary questions. He just nodded. Give me everything you know about her, I told him. Jessica Holloway, 29 years old, claimed to have a marketing degree from the University of Wisconsin. Said she worked as a consultant for a firm in Minneapolis. She and Michael had met at a dental conference where she was supposedly managing a vendor booth. They'd been together 11 months. I'll call you in a week, Marcus said. It was the longest week of my life. I went through the motions, showed up to my volunteer shift at the community center, helped Mrs. Patterson next door fix her fence, attended the final wedding venue walkthrough with Michael and Jessica, forcing smiles while she chatted about centerpieces and seating charts. Every time I looked at Jessica, I saw that phone call, heard those words, getting the old man to agree. Work that angle. When Marcus finally called, I knew from his tone that it was bad. Tom, you need to sit down for this. I was already sitting in my truck in the grocery store parking lot, but I gripped the steering wheel anyway. Jessica Holloway is not who she says she is, Marcus began. Her real name is Jennifer Hayes. She's 34, not 29. The marketing degree? Fake. The consulting firm? Doesn't exist. She's never worked in marketing in her life. I felt like I'd been punched. What does she do? She targets men with assets, specifically men who've recently lost a parent or spouse and inherited property. She finds them online, through obituaries and estate notices, creates a whole persona, meets them in situations where she seems legitimate. This is the 4th time she's done this, Tom. 4th? First was a guy in Iowa. His mother died, left him a farm. Jennifer convinced him they should sell it and invest in a restaurant franchise. The franchise was fake, run by her partner. Guy lost $400,000, committed suicide 6 months later. My hands were shaking. Second was in South Dakota. Widower with a commercial building in Sioux Falls. She got him to take out a loan against the property to invest in her marketing firm. Never saw that money again. He's filing bankruptcy. Third, I whispered, Wisconsin. Man inherited a portfolio of rental properties from his father. She convinced him to consolidate everything, sell and invest in a hedge fund her colleague managed. The colleague vanished with $600,000. That victim is still in litigation. Jesus Christ. Tom, there's more. I tracked down her partner, guy named Derek Sutton. He's got a record: fraud, identity theft, embezzlement. He's been arrested 3 times but only convicted once, served 2 years in Illinois. The dental conference where she met Michael? I called them. They have no record of any vendor booth managed by a Jessica Holloway or anyone matching her description. How did she get in? Fake credentials. She's good, Tom. Very good. She studies her targets for months before making contact, learns everything about them, their interests, their vulnerabilities, their assets. Then she becomes exactly what they're looking for. I thought about Michael, kind, trusting Michael, who'd been devastated after his ex-girlfriend cheated on him 2 years ago, who'd thrown himself into his dental practice, working 70-hour weeks, who'd finally seemed happy again when he met Jessica. Can you prove all this? I asked. I can. I've got court documents, arrest records, victim statements. I've also got something else. Marcus paused. I tapped into Derek Sutton's phone records. Legal gray area, but admissible if we involve police. He and Jennifer have been in contact constantly. I managed to get a recording of one of their calls from 2 days ago. What did they say? You want me to play it? Yes. There was a rustling sound. Then Derek's voice came through, muffled but clear. How much you think we can get? At least $700K for the cabin, Jennifer's voice replied. Maybe more if we can convince him to sell the house too. But the cabin's the priority. He's attached to it. But I've been working on Michael, making him feel guilty about his dad living alone, suggesting we could all live together in a new place. Once we're married, Michael will help me persuade him. And if the old man won't sell, then plan B. Michael gets power of attorney after we're married. I've already started dropping hints about Thomas's memory slipping. Has your dad seemed forgetful lately? Maybe we should make sure someone can make decisions if he needs help. I felt sick. Once we have POA, we don't need his permission, Jennifer continued. We sell, split the money, and I file for divorce 6 months later. Michael won't know what hit him. You're evil, babe. I love it. They both laughed. The recording ended. I sat in my truck for 20 minutes, trying to process it all. My son was about to marry a woman who was planning to defraud us both, to destroy him emotionally and me financially, to take everything my father had worked for, everything Sarah and I had built, and the wedding was in 2.5 weeks. Marcus, I need to tell Michael. Tom, wait. I know this is hard, but we need to think strategically. If you tell Michael now, Jennifer might panic and disappear. Derek too. Then they'll just find another victim. I don't care about other victims. I care about my son. I know. But the police care about other victims. And if we can get Jennifer and Derek arrested, convicted, That's not just saving Michael. That's preventing the next target, the next family. He was right. But every instinct in me was screaming to grab Michael and shake him until he understood what was happening. What do you suggest? The rehearsal dinner is 2 nights before the wedding, right? Yes, at the cabin. Perfect. Jennifer has been asking about the cabin's value, pushing for information. She'll bring Derek. I guarantee it. She'll introduce him as a friend or colleague, but he'll be there to scope out the property, maybe push Michael harder on selling. We set a trap. I contact the sheriff's department, explain the situation, provide the evidence. They attend the dinner undercover. When Jennifer and Derek make their move, we've got witnesses and we arrest them on the spot. In front of everyone? I thought about Michael, the humiliation, the heartbreak. Tom, your son is going to be devastated no matter when he finds out. But if we do it publicly, with police present, he can't be manipulated by Jennifer afterwards. She won't have a chance to spin the story, to make you seem like the paranoid father trying to break them up. He'll see the truth. And so will everyone else. I closed my eyes. Sarah, what would you do? But I knew. Sarah would protect our son, no matter the cost. Okay, I said. Let's do it. The next 2 weeks were torture. I had to pretend everything was fine. Had to smile at the wedding shower. Had to write a check for the rehearsal dinner catering. Had to watch Michael's face light up when he talked about his future with Jennifer. Marcus worked with the sheriff's department. They reviewed the evidence, ran their own checks, confirmed everything. 2 deputies would attend the rehearsal dinner as guests. Marcus would be there too, acting as my old army buddy. The hardest part was not telling Michael. 3 times I almost broke. Once, when he showed me the wedding bands he'd picked out. Once, when he asked me to be his best man. And once, the night before the rehearsal dinner, when he came over and thanked me for being so welcoming to Jennifer. I know Mom would have loved her, he said. I had to excuse myself to the bathroom. I couldn't let him see me cry. The rehearsal dinner was set for 6 p.m. on Friday. 30 people, Michael's closest friends, Jennifer's supposed friends, a few relatives. Jennifer had insisted on having it at the cabin. It's so special to you, she'd said to me. I want everyone to see why this place means so much to your family. What she really wanted was Derek to see the property value. I arrived early to help set up. The caterers were arranging tables on the lawn overlooking the lake. String lights hung between the trees. It should have been beautiful. Instead, it felt like preparing for an execution. Marcus arrived at 5:30, wearing a blazer and looking every bit the respectable retired veteran. The 2 deputies, Dan Kowalski and Maria Reyes, came at 5:45, dressed casually, introduced as my neighbors from town. At 6, guests started arriving. Michael was glowing, greeting everyone. Jennifer was stunning in a cream sundress, playing the perfect bride-to-be. And then I saw him. The man who walked in at 6:15 with Jennifer's group of friends. Tall, good-looking, expensive watch. He made a beeline for Jennifer, hugged her, then turned to Michael. You must be the groom. Jessica's told me so much about you. I'm Derek, an old friend from college. Michael shook his hand warmly. Great to meet you, man. I caught Marcus's eye across the lawn. He nodded slightly. That was Derek Sutton. Dinner progressed. Speeches were made. Michael's best friend told embarrassing stories. Jennifer's maid of honor gushed about how perfect they were together. Through it all, I watched Derek. He was working the crowd, but every few minutes, his eyes would drift to the cabin, to the lake, calculating. At one point, I saw him pull Jennifer aside. They whispered near the dock. Jennifer laughed, loud enough for others to hear, but her eyes were cold, calculating. Then came my turn to speak. I stood, glass in hand, looking at the faces around me. My son's friends, people who cared about him, and the 2 people who were about to destroy him. I want to thank everyone for coming, I began. My voice was steady. This cabin has been in my family for 70 years. My father built it with his own hands. My wife Sarah and I raised our kids here. When Sarah passed 3 years ago, I thought about selling it. The memories were too painful. Jennifer was watching me intently, but Michael convinced me to keep it. He said, Dad, this is where we feel closest to Mom. Don't take that away. And he was right. This place isn't just property. It's family. It's legacy. It's love. I saw Derek shift uncomfortably, which is why I'm so grateful that Jessica understands that. that she respects what this cabin means to us. Jennifer smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. In fact, I'd like to thank Jessica for something else, for teaching me an important lesson. I paused. She taught me that not everyone who seems trustworthy actually is, that sometimes people pretend to love you to get what you want, that sometimes the person standing next to you, promising forever, is really just calculating how much they can take from you. The atmosphere shifted. People looked confused. Michael's smile faded. Jennifer went pale. Jessica, or should I say Jennifer Hayes, would you like to tell everyone why you've asked me about this cabin's value 5 different times? Why you told your partner Derek here? I gestured to Derek, who was now standing. That you were going to work the angle to get me to sell. What? Michael turned to Jennifer. What is he talking about? Thomas, I don't know what. Jennifer started. Stop. I pulled out my phone, connected it to the portable speaker we'd used for music. Everyone needs to hear this. I hit play. Jennifer's voice filled the air. At least $700K for the cabin. Maybe more if we can convince him to sell the house, too. Michael's face went white. Derek's voice. And if the old man won't sell? Jennifer. Then plan B. Michael gets power of attorney after we're married. I've already started dropping hints about Thomas's memory slipping. Someone gasped. I kept the recording playing. Every damning word. The laughter. The cold calculation. When it finished, silence. Then Michael spoke, his voice breaking. Jess? Jennifer's mask cracked. Michael, I can explain. You're Jennifer Hayes, Marcus said, standing. You've defrauded 3 other men. James Morrison in Iowa, Paul Stevens in South Dakota, Richard Chen in Wisconsin. You and Derek Sutton have been running this con for 4 years. Derek bolted. He made it 3 steps before Deputy Kowalski tackled him. Jennifer tried to run too. Deputy Reyes blocked her path. Jennifer Hayes, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, identity theft, and attempted exploitation of a vulnerable adult. The next few minutes were chaos. Handcuffs, Miranda rights, guests pulling out phones, Jennifer screaming that this was all a misunderstanding, that I was crazy, that Michael should stop them. But Michael wasn't looking at her. He was looking at me, and in his eyes I saw something break. After the police left with Jennifer and Derek, after the guests awkwardly departed, Michael and I sat on the dock, just the 2 of us, watching the sun set over Birch Lake. How long have you known? He finally asked. 2.5 weeks. Why didn't you tell me? Because Marcus said if we didn't catch them in the act, with evidence and witnesses, Jennifer would disappear and find another victim, another family. And I couldn't let that happen. So you let me believe I was getting married in 2 days. I'm sorry, Michael. I know. No. He cut me off. You don't know. You don't know what it feels like to have everyone you love look at you with pity. To realize the person you planned your life with was just using you. To know that I was so stupid, so desperate to be happy again after Rachel, that I couldn't see what was right in front of me. You're not stupid. You're trusting. That's not a flaw. It is when it almost cost you your father's home. Jesus, Dad. She was going to take the cabin. Mom's cabin. His voice broke. We sat in silence for a long time. When Mom got sick, I said eventually, she made me promise something. She said, Tom, Michael's going to hurt. Life is going to hurt him, and you're going to want to protect him from every bad thing. But you can't. All you can do is be there when he falls. Michael wiped his eyes. So I'm here, son. I'm right here. He leaned his head on my shoulder, like he used to do when he was little. And we watched the lake until the stars came out. 3 months later, Jennifer Hayes and Derek Sutton were formally charged with 15 counts of fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy. Turns out there weren't just 3 other victims. There were 9. Marcus's investigation had opened a floodgate. Michael testified at the preliminary hearing. So did I. So did all 9 previous victims, including James Morrison's sister, since James was no longer alive to speak for himself. Jennifer got 12 years. Derek got 15. The cabin stayed in the family. Michael started seeing a therapist. Joined a support group for fraud victims. Slowly, carefully, began dating again. This time, a woman he'd known since high school, who worked at the library and thought the cabin was beautiful but had never once asked what it was worth. And me? I learned that sometimes the cracks you notice early on, the small fractures in the foundation, they matter. They're not paranoia or overprotection. They're patterns. And patterns, if you know how to read them, can save someone's life. I still sit on that dock every evening, watching the sunset over Birch Lake. Sometimes Michael joins me. Sometimes his new girlfriend does too. And sometimes, when the light hits the water just right, I swear I can feel Sarah there with us, proud that we protected what she loved most. Not the cabin, not the property, but each other.